Okay, welcome everyone. It is June 8th, 5:30 PM. I'd like to open up this Pueblo West Metro Board of Directors meeting. I'd like a call order, please. I'm sorry, roll call, please, Katrina.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Taking roll call, President Axworthy,
Here.
Vice President Vickers,
Everyone, it is
Present.
June 8th, 5:30 PM. I'd like to
Director Roberts,
Present.
open up this,
Turn mic on. Present.
Director Pasternak,
Here.
and then we'll let the record note that Director Potter is excused and his absence will be marked as his absence will be marked as excused. Forgive me, I'm a little out of practice.
I gotcha. Thank you, Katrina. Invocation by Bill Vickers.
Yep. Thank you. Please ask that you bow your heads. Heavenly Father, as we gather here tonight, I ask for your guidance as we endeavor to make decisions that direct the future of the Pueblo West Metropolitan District and the people that call it home. I pray that our minds would be open to opposing thoughts and that we give each other the respect of our own individual convictions without judgment of motive. Give all involved with the day-to-day operation of the district wisdom and discernment in the decisions they make, and give this board of directors wisdom and discernment in the decisions we make. All the while, let us keep in mind that our goal is to be good stewards of the resources that we are derived from the citizens of Pueblo West. We ask that you keep all the district employees safe from harm and carrying out their duties, and we ask that you bless this meeting tonight and our nation. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. Next up, Pledge of Allegiance. Rodney? I'm sorry, not Rodney. Greg? My apologies.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's all right. Got Rodney on my mind.
Oh, I don't know, that's a good thing.
Nice. Enjoying life on the beach. All right.
Till the pirates show up,
Right.
right?
Okay, so can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Heard. Moving on. Public comments. Do we have any public comments, Katrina?
We do have public comments, both online and in person. I will go ahead and invite Joe Mahaney up first. He lives at 159 West Magnum Court.
Good evening, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Settling in.
So just a reminder, 3 minutes.
Okay, Joe Mahaney, 159 West Mangrum Court. I'm here concerning the proposed administration annex to 163. I'm against it. I think it's a very ill thought out of thing, and we shouldn't be wasting our money designing it, let alone building it. I want to give you a little bit of a history lesson. Back when Nina Vetter was our district manager, she thought she had a money tree somewhere, and she started coming up with all these goofy things. Anyway, they decided that 109 wasn't good enough, so they hired somebody to fix the roof. The roof blew off and the building was condemned. And so it just one thing led to another. And so she came up with this big scheme to build a convention center and a aquatic center and a new administration building down on East Spalding. And well, that just, I don't know where. I kept asking her, where was she going to get the money? She said, no problem. It's in the budget. That's all she'd ever say. Anyway, then the next thing is we had a Tabor excess that we had to deal with. You had to either refund the money or go to the taxpayers and come up with some way to keep it. The dollars involved was around $80,000, and the board at that time thought it was better to go to the taxpayers than it would be it cost more to refund the money, and they didn't know who to refund it to. So that got us started on the aquatic center. Now, that soon figured out that there wasn't enough money from the Tabor excess to even keep up with inflation on the aquatic center. So they decided the marijuana tax was the money tree at that time. And so they dedicated 30% of the marijuana tax to the aquatic center. Well, that money tree died a slow death. It went from $1 million a year down to $250,000. So things just seemed to fall apart. Then the taxpayers decided they would rather have a new fire station, and so we voted a sales tax specifically to build fire station number 2, and that was completed. All the while, the administration building just seemed to drift off into the weeds, and nobody gave it any thought.
We'll have to end soon, Joe. We'll have to end pretty soon. You're out of your 3-minute mark.
All right. Anyway, so then the board rented spaces from San Isabel Electric. The COVID hit, and they asked us to move out, so we had to find a place. 2 board members at that time thought we should buy the Remax building. 3 board members decided we should rent 63 Spalding, which they did. So as a state, that was just done a place to go. Nobody really thought too much of it at the time, but it was not a good deal. So then they decided the thing to do was to buy it rather than continue to rent it, and that would free up 3 extra office spaces in that building. All the time, we made a trade, the board made a trade for some of the lots that the district owned out by fire station number 3 for a location across from fire station number 1, which would be where the new administration building should be built. So that seemed like all right. 63 Spalding is just a mud hole in the road to success. So we get across this, and then they come up with the idea of buying the lot next
Sorry,
to
Joe.
it.
Do you want to finish your comments at the end of the meeting? Would you mind doing that? Because we're at almost 5 minutes now. Hold on to those notes, though. We need to, like you to finish. It's always hard to do it myself. I'm sorry. Got to do it. Let's keep us on task. Anyone else? Katrina?
We do have one online comment, and this comment actually ended up in our spam folder and was not read into record, so I'm here to correct that today and get that read into record. So this comment was submitted by Willie Peterson from 961 South Sweetwater. Dear Pueblo West board members, I'm writing in concern about Pueblo West safety. The safety manager has no idea what he is doing. This guy just drives around making all the employees' lives miserable and way harder, especially the fire departments. If you work for the fire department, you better watch out. This guy will be trying to spy and get them in trouble. I wouldn't be surprised if he carried around a pair of binoculars to watch the staff that works unlike him, who just drives around harassing employees. Fun fact, did you know this guy is the most hated employee of Pueblo West? He literally must drive around with his dog because he's scared to drive around alone because everyone hates him. In fact, even Jake is so tired of his mouth running all the time that last week he jumped into the sewer ponds at wastewater just to try to get away from him. The board has no idea how much employees' time this guy wastes. Most employees' jobs now take 3 times as much because the safety manager is lurking around the corner to get you in trouble. This guy was so scared that at one point he had another HR person driving him around to go out and harass employees. Employees and the public complain that Joe Mahaney used to go around and waste employees' time. He looks like an amateur compared to the safety manager. That's all he does is drive around and waste people's time. Just like he shows up at the fire station, acts like everyone must bow down to him. Newsflash, he's not even our safety over the fire department. We have our own safety and training guy. He walks around questioning about Vector Solutions training. He's not even over our training. The fire department has their own training guy, and it's not connected to his. Believe it or not, this guy used to be a state trooper, and he was liked more as a cop than he is as a safety manager. Imagine that we would rather get a ticket from him and pay money rather than deal with him as a safety guy. What I ask of the board is that you investigate this. Something must change. This guy needs to be put back into his lane and taught to stay in his lane, does not wander off and think he's some big shot investigator. Please put a leash on this guy and keep him under control. As always, all employees remember Safety Steve is not your friend. He's a radical safety guy that thinks he has all the power in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay. So Joe, again, we'll continue your statement later. Okay. Next up, consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I have just a question about these properties. If I might ask.
Litigation?
Yeah.
Do we need to, can we do that in an open session?
We want to add, you have a confidential memorandum, but if you've got particular questions that you want to ask about this, we can either do it in an executive session, or if you think appropriate, we can do it on the record right now.
My own concern is I wanted to maybe ask some questions about them before we just submitted to go to litigation.
Would you like to table this until the next meeting? We certainly can do that.
I would,
So those are the same properties we discussed at the
True.
last executive session.
yeah. No, I know, I guess my concern is fiscal costs.
Right.
Uh,
And it's,
and-
you know, when you bring an action, and this is always the case, the costs are driven by how the other party reacts.
Right.
So, you know, if you can get a piece of litigation, it depends also on if it's in district court or county court.
Mhm.
County court is generally much more expedited procedures. They have simplified rules of civil procedure, and the cases tend to move much more quickly, which is why we advised that a couple of these could be handled in county court. As you may recall from one of the cases that we have taken to district court, we have expended north of $20,000 in pursuing that case. It looks like that case is moving toward a resolution, but we're seeking money damages for the attorney's fees in that case. Yeah, so,
Yeah, I guess really my only concern is that the board fully understands that I get it. We want to enforce the covenants and we want the ability to enforce fines. But at what point does it become counterproductive?
we're cost ineffective.
Cost ineffective.
And
So
that's-
and that's the discussion that I'm happy to have wherever we need to have it.
So would you like
Go
to
ahead.
table?
I would say point of order is if we want to discuss just the idea of whether there's enough information for each board member to vote aye or nay towards moving forward with what's proposed. Sounds like there's enough discussion to hold off the consent and open discussion on that tonight, and it could be follow immediately towards it. And then if the answer was either no, or we need more time, then table for a future executive session.
So can I ask that question and then see what comes from that?
Ask the question if everybody understands.
If they understand, if they want, I mean, I don't want to be the only one that thinks there's a problem.
Table it,
I-
move it to the executive session.
The most proper thing I can think to do would be to ask for it to pull off. That way it's actually a discussion on it. It can follow immediately. It can be the simplest question of board, do you feel and understand that? And then it can be voted on, and then we can. move to
Okay,
the
let's,
rest of the
so I'll make a motion to pull those, addresses off of the consent agenda.
Okay.
And that's requested. That's taken off,
And
no
then-
vote.
For discussion this meeting.
Yeah, so if you would like to move forward with the rest of the consent agenda, make a motion with that moved off. And then we can immediately go into that and then ask that question.
Yeah, I'm okay with the rest.
So I'll go ahead. I'll make a motion to remove the litigation topics from the consent agenda and add that to the executive session for today's meeting.
No, sorry.
Well, I'm sorry.
Just ask, motion to approve the consent agenda with
With
items 1A through D
Okay.
pulled
gotcha.
off,
Sorry.
vote on that, and then that could be immediately discussed.
All right, gotcha. All right. So make a motion to remove section 1A through D from the consent agenda and approve everything else.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Now, items G1A through D being pulled off, can immediately open discussion on that.
Okay.
And whether you want to take action on tonight, if there's a motion, you can still approve it tonight. If there is not a motion, or there is a failed motion or anything, then we can either plan for an executive session discussion at the follow-on meeting or take another action that the board feels is appropriate.
Okay, so I would just like to ask the question of the board, if you feel comfortable in moving forward, if you have all the information that you think you need, you've thought about all the ramifications, if you feel comfortable moving forward, or okay to do that, just wanted the opportunity.
I'm curious if all of these properties are all at this exact same stage of the process,
Pretty much,
pretty
yes.
much, okay? I know we want to develop a sense of consistency, so we have past practice, in what we do, so I'm okay with it as it is.
We can also, there are some certain strategies that we can use to try to keep the costs down. Bringing actions that could be in district court, in county court instead, where there's a limitation on damages and equitable relief, but would put us in a position to collect fines that have already been assessed. So there are things we can do to minimize cost, and I'm happy to talk about those with the board.
Any comments, Chris?
Yeah, I'm good with keeping them, moving forward with the legal action on those properties. To one, stay consistent. Two, this is if there's rules in place, they need to be followed, and this is the path to enforce that. I'm kind of sick and tired of living in a society that doesn't enforce rules, so I'm for sticking with this. That's it.
And I agree with Chris and Greg. I think we should move forward as we discussed last meeting.
I would pardon me, Mr. President, I would certainly report to the board on an ongoing basis what the costs look like. And I would also say that by bringing these 4 cases all at the same time, we may be able to have some efficiencies in doing that. So
Efficiencies
I will
is
stay
good.
in close touch with the board on the cost.
Appreciate it.
So you can entertain a motion.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to move forward with items G1A through D on the consent agenda, I suppose.
I second the motion to move forward with item 1A through E.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, so next on the agenda, special presentation, but I believe Christian is introducing this topic with some information.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Christian J. Hine, District Manager. We've got Kevin Niles, Director of Utilities, and I believe Melissa Buck with UMB Bank. And we appreciate her. She's going to do, I think, the majority of it. I know I'm going to turn it over to another introduction here, but just a point of clarification for those who don't know why we're here tonight or don't have context, and based on a conversation I had with President Axworthy on Friday, acknowledging that the wastewater treatment plant, and I won't steal any thunder if you want to talk anything about it, for the expansion is coming up, and it is a necessary expansion as we grow out to make sure we can serve the community. The question has been raised as far as if we were to construct it, looking at our revenue versus expenses and long-term fiscal responsibility of that project has necessitated us to look at how do we fund a project that is meaningfully going to have that necessity to construct within the nearby timeframe. Can't speak to the exact years, but let's say 2 to 5, if not sooner. And find ourselves in a situation where there isn't the revenue over expenses to meaningfully maintain it, and also the fund balance to pay for a $30 million expansion project. So that's what's caused us to look at different options, whether it's state revolving fund, going through COPs, which is certificates of participation, and looking at it is why we have to have those types of conversations. And tonight is very focused on providing information to the board to understand what those options look like, what they mean, and get prepped for the future conversation where we'll probably dive into the details for it. So I apologize if I stole any thunder from either of you, but just starting with that, and I'll turn it over to Kevin.
So good evening, President Axworthy, members of the Board of Directors, Kevin Niles, Director of Utilities. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Melissa Buck with UMB Bank. As the district continues to evaluate options for the planned wastewater treatment plant expansion, it is important that we fully understand the financial tools and strategies available to support this critical infrastructure investment. Ms. Buck brings extensive experience in public finance and municipal lending and will be providing an overview of potential finance options, funding structures, and considerations that may assist the board in making informed decisions regarding the project. Her presentation will help us better understand the opportunities and challenges associated with funding the project as this magnitude while maintaining the district's long-term financial stability. We appreciate UMB Bank's partnership and willingness to share their experience with us this evening. So please join me in welcoming Melissa Buck.
Welcome.
Wastewater treatment plant expansion is an important that we
Thank you
fully understand
both.
the financial tools and
So
strategies available to support
would it be
this
easiest if I share my screen to Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, perfect. So as mentioned, staff asked us to evaluate financing options for the wastewater treatment project. And as you'll see as we go through this presentation, that I have 3 structures to walk you through today. The first one is the state revolving fund. The second are certificates of participation, which is a lease appropriation. And then the last one is a water, sewer, or combined revenue pledge. And I'll show you what each one costs, how they differ, and what I might suggest the board consider based off of whatever your goals may be. And happy to take questions as we go along through this. So before we get into the numbers, I thought it would be a good idea to recap the context that we're working with. So on the left, if you can see this slide, on the left, you see the project is approximately 30 million, and the district has roughly 13,600 taps. The current sewer rate is about $4.32 per 1,000 gallons. And the district presently has about 7.5 million of existing SRF loans outstanding. And then on the right, in the blue box, 3 things for you to consider as you think about what makes sense for the district. First, the SRF deadline for a project of this size falls twice a year. And it falls on either January 5th or June 5th. And so since we've already passed that June 5th deadline for 2026, you're looking now at January 5th, 2027 or June of that year. So if the district wants to pursue this option, it will need to complete all the prerequisites the state requires prior to applying for the project. And you would have to do that in the next few months. Second, from what I understand, the district's stated goal is to minimize ratepayer impacts. And I have a couple of slides more on this topic later on. And then lastly, you know, treatment plants have useful lives of 30 to 40 years. So generally speaking, the financing term should be appropriate to the asset. So moving on to the next slide, and this is really the core of the analysis. What you see before you are 6 scenarios. And the difference between the two are, like we said, the 3 different financing options, and then the difference between 20 years or 30 years. As you can see, SRF comes in at about 3.25% or 3.5%, depending if it's 20 years or 30 years, as compared to market rate structures, which are about 4.12 to 4.77. And that's a pretty significant difference over the long term. However, keep in mind that SRF loans typically have Davis-Bacon and Buy American provisions, which can make projects more expensive. So frequently you do have to do that cost benefit analysis where if you go through SRF, yes, the rate is lower, but the project might cost more. And so there's generally some sort of break even where it makes sense, SRF or market rate. And so what you see in the green highlighted row, this is the per tap per month. So for example, for a 30-year SRF loan, you're looking at about $10.62 per tap per month on top of what residents currently pay. By comparison, for a 30-year water sewer revenue bond, ratepayers would be looking at an additional $12.40 per month. So kind of the difference between 20 years and 30 years, a 30-year option more or less reduces monthly payments by $2 to $3 per tap per month. And so for those of you who aren't extremely familiar with certificates of participation and kind of what that is versus a water sewer revenue bond, as I mentioned in the beginning, a COP is a lease appropriation, and under Colorado law, it has to be annually appropriated. So because of that, investors do price an additional risk that the district wouldn't appropriate for these bonds, and that's why they're generally a little bit more expensive than doing a water or wastewater revenue bond. And just so you know, so I talk about per tap per month, and that's just an easy comparison, you know, a good kind of broad brushstroke across the various scenarios. But I do want to point out that in reality, most municipalities have different classes of ratepayers. So this impact may not actually be as uniform across different customer classes, meaning a full rate study would generally quantify the total necessary increase across all the customer classes, whether it's residential or industrial or general commercial use. And they would also take into account any operating cost escalations or savings to kind of calculate what that full cost of service would look like. I'm just showing you the financing piece today to give you an idea of what this project would mean for ratepayers. And then, so talking a little bit more about 20 versus 30 years, this slide frames the fundamental trade-off between that shorter term and the longer term. As you can see, a longer term has a lower monthly payment, $2 to $3 per tap. So for, you know, the 13,600 taps, that's probably about $300,000 to $400,000 a year in ratepayer relief. However, there is a trade-off, right? And the cost of that relief is about $8 to $12 million in additional interest costs over the life of the financing. So, you know, just to think about this slide, there is no objectively right answer. Whether you do 20 years or you do 30 years really depends on your rate capacity and your other capital needs. Obviously, a shorter term costs ratepayers more per month, but it saves substantially over time. On the other hand, a longer term preserves annual cash flow for other projects, but it does cost more over the life of the financing. And so, whatever structure or term you guys end up selecting, there are tools to manage the rate impact on your customers. The most impactful, as Kevin mentioned in the beginning, the most impactful is going to be a cash contribution from enterprise reserves. The district has roughly 47 million in reserves. And so a partial cash contribution to the project would directly reduce the borrowing amount and of course the per tap or ratepayer impact. And so the board would have to weigh the level of that contribution against funding other projects because as you might imagine there is always an opportunity cost. The second most impactful thing would probably be a rate phase in. So rather than doing the full rate increase on day one, you could ramp up over time using a rate stabilization reserve. This could give customers time to adjust to the necessary higher rates. The other things on this slide, whether it's capitalized interest or a surety instead of a cash funded debt service reserve, refunding opportunities, these are all structural features that we would build into whichever option you select. And not each one would apply across uniformly, but I would say in terms of ratepayer impact, cash contribution or rate stabilization fund would be the most would have the most impact to customers. So this slide really talks about other factors than just price or the overall cost of borrowing. So as you probably already figured out, SRF is by far the cheapest option, but it is also the slowest and is subject to the state's application cycle and other funding priorities. So, and what I mean by that is the state changed its funding criteria, I guess last year in 2025. So it used to be first come, first served. Now there is a prioritization framework. So there is a chance that you could apply and the state would say, we don't have enough money, so we're going to waitlist this project to a future cycle. Which is a long-winded way of saying that if project urgency is your number one consideration, SRF financing is probably not going to be your most realistic option. If project urgency is the driving force, then you should probably look at COPs or water or wastewater secured. COPs, they are the most flexible, but they do impact the overall capital improvement plan because you need real estate to pledge as collateral and the district only has so much of it. So if you fund this project through COPs, there may be another project that you wouldn't be able to fund that way. Waters who are secured, that offers the tightest market spreads and would probably net the district the second lowest cost of borrowing after SRF. But there is an additional bonds test that you would have to meet, and that generally means increasing your rates, adopting that rate increase to meet that additional bonds test. So in terms of market rate options, if the district anticipates other large capital projects, the choice between COP and water and sewer really becomes a question of preserving that pledge capacity or if minimizing borrowing cost matters more to you. And then on this slide, which is actually the last slide in my presentation for you, so what I tried to put here is kind of based off of everything that I know and everything that I've done for other municipalities this is kind of your decision framework in a nutshell. So the left column lists the constraint, the middle shows which structure best addresses it, and the right column explains why. So my recommendation to the district, it's really the construction timeline is going to determine your financing path. If you can afford to wait at least 6 months and maybe a cycle or two, then SRF is going to be your lowest cost by a significant margin because it saves, 6 to 10 million over the alternatives. However, if the project is more critical or speed is the biggest constraint and you cannot afford to wait, then you're looking at a market rate option, whether that's COPs or water, wastewater secured, because those close in roughly, 60 to 100 days, depending on if you have to adopt a rate increase. So, I put this here largely as informational purposes. From what I understand, you don't have to make any financing decisions today. Any sort of debt financing, that would be a separate board vote, and that would come before you in the form of an authorizing resolution or ordinance. And that would be brought forward at a future date once you guys have figured out what financing path makes the most sense for you. So I'll stop there. I don't know if anybody has any questions, or if you'd like me to talk through things a little bit more, happy to do that.
So I think this is more of just an introduction to what we have to face. We're going to dive deeper into this, obviously, than after today. But if there's any, high-level questions at the moment, we can ask them now.
I have a few questions. In any of those programs, is there an early payoff clause?
Yeah, so frequently 10 years, that would be standard. You can sometimes negotiate a quicker prepayment option. SRF lately, they've been holding to 10 years. So really, if you wanted that prepayment flexibility, then you would have to do a market rate option, and it would cost you. It would cost you maybe a few basis points because investors would price in that premium that you would likely prepay this at an earlier date.
Good question. Anyone else?
Kevin, do we have any conservation grants available for this project?
I'm not sure if there is or not. I'd have to look into that.
And then, if we were to implement any type of finances for this project, when would you anticipate a rate increase for our residents?
Well, it really depends on like she talked about, on our construction timeframe. Right now, we're not under a major construction deadline. It just now is going out for design. So that was one of the implementations that we needed to do to satisfy CDPHE and the requirements that they had when they came to us and said that we needed to do a plan expansion. So by putting it out to design, we've pretty much satisfied their intent at this time. But as we continue to get through design, as we remember, we talked about doing a construction manager at risk for the project itself.
Correct.
So usually when we get to about 30% design, that's when you want to bring that CMAR into the project to start doing that. So we would need the financing done and set up for the project at that time. So you're looking anywhere from at least a year from now, completely based off if we were going to do the SRF lending.
And how long would a project like this estimatedly take? Just from your experience.
From
complete.
time frame from dig to finish, or
Well,
from
From the time
design
of
to
work- yeah,
finish?
From design to finish.
From design to finish, you're probably looking at 3 years.
Okay. And of course, we'll be looking at your other major projects you got going on, so.
As far as the wastewater projects, we don't have a lot of major projects going on right now. We are doing the CIPP, which is the cured in place piping. We are working on, under our current SRF loan, we have some dollars set aside from that we need to expend in this year's. So we are working through that project, but we don't have any major capital improvement projects on the horizon for wastewater, except for the wastewater treatment expansion.
Okay, and I know she said we got, what, 41 million, in the enterprise
That's
money?
all of the enterprise funds together.
That's
Right.
everything, yeah.
Yeah, so are you looking to carry over any of that?
So as of right now, we would have about 4 million left over in the reserve funds for wastewater. And as right now, the SRF, I think the maximum lending capacity is $20 million for SRF loans. So we would have to contribute the rest above that.
Yep. Sounds about right. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments regarding the presentation?
Most of my questions are for you. I don't know if you want to delve into it, so I'll give you an idea of some of the questions. So, the CDPHE tells us we have to do design, start planning when we're at 80%, correct?
Correct.
Is there a mandatory time that you have to build?
As far as the mandatory, I'm not aware of the mandatory time. Again, they said that we need to start getting and planning and have a design concept in place for us to move. We won't be able to add any additional inflow, basically any more buildings or of that capacity. Once we reach that 80% threshold and go above and beyond, they're gonna want something under construction.
Okay, so it's not just design at 80% capacity.
Yeah,
It's
once we
built.
exceed the 80%.
Okay.
We are at 80%
We're
now.
at 80% now.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of does away with the other question, because a sewer system is a closed loop system. Do you know how many more available taps we have on the sewer system?
I do not know that exact number. I'm
Okay. I guess that was it. So that was, my point on that question was if we're never gonna get to 80% with the amount of sewer taps that we have then we're actually looking at a longer time frame to be able to replace the system.
We are at 80%
Okay.
now.
All right. And you said we have about $4 million out of the 47 million to contribute?
Based off of the budget numbers for the 2026 budget, that's what is be remaining in the reserve funds if we expend everything under our capital improvement program for this year and all our operational costs.
So all the other money in there is dedicated to water?
Correct.
That's one thing Christian and I looked at on Friday, not to dive too deep in it, because again, we're gonna have big discussions on this topic, but we looked at the net revenue averages per year for wastewater, and that number will not carry the debt payment. So we'll have to talk about, how to move forward and so forth down the road.
Yeah, cause not everybody's on wastewater,
Right.
like myself.
It'd be different if the whole
If
district
everybody
was on,
was, then
yeah.
you'd have a much better, money flow in the pipeline.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
I got a question.
Yeah, sure. Go.
Melissa, would you help us with the SRF?
Yeah,
So-
I can definitely help you in terms of negotiating with SRF or running numbers or and like making the case to them for things. But frequently, putting together the application and all that stuff, it's really done by an engineer, somebody with that type of background.
Okay. I was kind of doing a little bit of research, and are you familiar with these MHV scores? Or is that a question for you?
I'm sorry.
An MHV score? I found on the SRF website they have disadvantaged communities, and we scored as a disadvantaged community under MHV. So that seems
Okay.
like that's helpful.
Yeah, that's really, really helpful, especially when it comes to prioritization of projects. Being a disadvantaged community, you do get, your score goes up, means the likelihood of your project getting funded goes up as well. But keep in mind that all of this is dependent on that fund having funds. So good example of this, I've been working with Colorado City Metro District on their water treatment plant project. And their project is in the SRF application cycle for this financing round, but it's already been waitlisted twice.
Okay.
I do have one additional question. To the wastewater, are you trying to put this design forward using the current proprietary blends and everything that we?
That would be under
currently
water
use?
treatment, that wouldn't be under
Not
wastewater.
not under wastewater? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
So we're over our time. Is there anything to add? Okay,
How long are we gonna have another discussion?
Thank you.
we will. Thank you,
Thank you, Melissa.
Melissa.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
Thank you, Kevin. All right, item I, guidance. Number 1, strategic priority. Number 4, master planning. So I took the lead on this one regarding track 317. So, board members, you have a packet in front of you, just what's basically occurred and what's been discussed over the last week. So the work to vacate the plot and designate track 317 as Parks and Recreation open park space was initiated to combat the dumping and illegal drug use occurring within that tract and mitigate the dangers to our community members. We understood that costs would incur to update cul-de-sacs and create fencing or trenching to facilitate drainage and reduce illegal traffic flow onto the property. So most recently, the board members and Christian were all contacted by a concerned community member and were asked to visit the property when that community member learned of the design plans about to be presented to the Pueblo West Metro Board. The plans described a closure of the Enchanted Hills access, which for the record is no longer a road since we vacated the plot, from McCulloch Boulevard, as well as installing hammerhead parking facilities at the end of residential housing areas, rather than moving forward with the original cul-de-sac updates. The design that was allowed to move forward creates some animosity and anxiety for the community members living in the area of the proposed hammerhead parking lots, including but not limiting to increased traffic on their road that was once quiet due to living on a cul-de-sac. Most people purchase a home on a cul-de-sac because they value the quiet nature that the amenity provides. And then heightened safety concerns due to unknown visiting entities parking so close to the house. So I understand that redesign would double the cost of the design phase for this project. However, an initial design that took into account the residents' concerns while still performing the original intent would have negated the need for a redesign. Perhaps more communication is needed during the project scope phase before designs are initiated, especially if roadblocks occur by superseding authorities. As it stands, it seems we're not exactly sure why the Enchanted Hills entrance to the property was required to be removed. It was an approved road when the tract was plotted, and traffic would be substantially less now that the tract is vacated versus having several homeowners traverse the road on a daily basis had the land been fully developed. From what I understand and have been told, the variance would just be a justifiable way to proceed with utilizing that previously approved road for entrance into the open park space. Most recently, Christian summarized, Christian sent us a DM update on Friday, I believe it was, and summarized this issue pretty well, with credit to John Steinbach's East of Eden. When we chase perfection, we tend to get rigid. We fear making mistakes, we stick too safely to the script, and we sometimes lose the human element that makes public service actually matter. But when we aim for goodness, we give ourselves permission to be human, to be flexible, and to be authentic. Our community doesn't need a machine, they need us. For our district, choosing goodness over perfection means bringing your authentic self to work, prioritizing connection over compliance, meaning listening to residents' concern with real empathy first, rather than just reciting policy, and embracing growth. Based on the conversations held with the board members, Christian, and the community, I believe the following should occur. Create a strong letter signed by the Pueblo West Metro Board members requesting a variance to allow entrance to the property via the originally approved Enchanted Hills exit from McCulloch Boulevard. Commit to the variance procedure and efforts until approved, while keeping board members apprised of the situation, especially if we need to jump in and apply pressure if needed. Design the cul-de-sacs as originally intended, while being compliant with the Pueblo County's design requirements. We understand that this will most likely lead to trenches at the end of the cul-de-sac to provide drainage and mitigate illegal entrance to the property. And add a capital expenditure to the Parks and Rec 2027 budget that would improve services to the community utilizing Track 317 and the Enchanted Hills entrance, including roadway entrance improvements, a road-based parking lot, picnic tables and grills, and a playground that blocks further drivability of the old Enchanted Hills Road, and a road-based walking, hiking path through the property that allows for future Parks and Rec developments. I understand that there are authorities above our station. We need to be vigilant in representing our district's needs in order to provide the best services possible to our community. I ask for further discussion on this topic and would like a motion to approve the above plan as stated or amended as necessary. So you were given basically a map of Track 317 and the current design plans for the Hammerhead parking structures, as well as an outline of where Enchanted Hills entrance is off of McCulloch. I believe Christian has some more information regarding costs, if that's something he wants to share.
I'll invite Sean if he would like to, in case there's any technical questions. And I won't, as far as it comes down to details, share exact costs unless we want to talk our opinions of probable costs that we have at this time, just because we have generally kept that out of the public when we come from design to construction when bids go out. But I can give you rough numbers of both
Thank you.
that and what we expect any change could be. Just to give appreciation, Mr. Woodman's here tonight. I appreciate his time and being able to look at this and get his feedback and to have this conversation with the board. Because I think it's going to come down to vision of the property in its total, Track 317, its intended use, and then both cost and risk that the board is willing to accept. The overall vision of Track 317 has been from previous board, as we went out to design, as we went to vacate the properties that were previously zoned and came into the possession of the district as residential lots, and ultimately became someplace that's really recognized as an open space. The original concern came from misuse of that property by people who were illegally dumping, using it for provocative activities, all kinds of nonsense. And with it, the question that really got posed to the board is, here are some options that we can entertain. Here's some costs when it comes to signage, that vacation process, potential future fencing that come up, and ranges of option of how much that could cost. And at that time, the board essentially created an escalation of lowest cost way to solve the problem and revisiting it along the way. So the first part was, hey, sign it, see if it helps, start working on the vacation process to turn that truly into an open space park. And that's essentially where we've progressed to date. So in the guidance we received in this whole conversation, it's been solve this problem at the lowest cost, preserving an asset for its intended use, which generally is an open space, and protecting it from the misuse, which is dumping, littering, abuse. And I think the work our team has done in working with Pueblo County, both planning and development and road and bridge, and contractor has kept that vision in mind. But what it did yield is essentially, instead of the 3 cul-de-sacs, which we are required to have built out in one form or another, an alternative where, because we were required to eliminate the illegal access off Enchanted Hills, because that's no longer roadway, and because it's now a property that is going to be something that needs some access to for those who want to use the open space as a park, meaning trailhead access at the very least, and us for utility, potential future water storage. That's right, water storage. Excuse me. Minimal improvements to be able to still retain that access, and then potential fencing and things and signage that would help us continue to move that activity. So I definitely understand the concern about if there is parking now in addition to those cul-de-sacs, and whether that's detracting from what people had expected. I definitely understand that concern. But it is pairing essentially 2 parts of it: minimal access requirements with minimal fencing, and preserving the space as it is used today, rather than increasing the amount of use that it could potentially have as a much larger open space park where you see maybe 50 visitors per day. So that's what's led up to this. The costs over time have escalated, I believe, even just to do the minimal requirements, where we had estimated maybe tens or 30, 40, 50,000 in cul-de-sac improvements or road improvements. That cost has gotten much higher I won't share the exact budgeted figure, but it's been hundreds of thousands just to get to the level of whether it's Hammerhead or cul-de-sac, just those parts of it. If we are to entertain and intend to make this a more larger project, it is going to be something we expect a much larger use of that area by the entire community instead of how it's kind of used today. And we're talking about that requesting Enchanted Hills access, or what we call Enchanted Hills, but essentially off McCulloch, and improving a parking lot. We're talking about additional hundreds of thousands in construction on top of that. So those are the numbers, just to be fair, as far as what we're talking today. Sean, if there's anything I missed or relevant, welcome to chime in. But those are, I think, the numbers, and it's just a question of the board's intent of keep it preserved as is and how it's used, with a potential for how that impacts the neighborhood and the Hammerhead and parking lot, or reimagine, re-envision it, and increase it. Still coming with that letter to request, I think that's the appropriate action, because the Board of County Commissioners is probably gonna have to be the ones to determine that's gonna change from what our vacation process looked like, because it's specified in that vacation. And then there will be additional costs on top of that. So I think that's the matter for the board to discuss. And I think that guidance can come out today, and then we can prepare something to follow up with what that might mean, if not tonight, at the very next meeting.
So,
A
discussion.
lot of questions, a lot of discussion. Shoot, I always start off, I don't care. So vacating the property was like a double-edged sword. Who's gonna be burdened with the cost of, any modifications from this day forward?
Pueblo Metro.
The Metro District, right? The proposed fence, split rail?
Something like that, yeah.
I don't know. I like big rocks, or either prefab concrete, 4 foot by 4 foot, 12 foot long. You can get those sections prefab. You can paint them different off colors of sand or taupe or whatever. But I understand Plevel County wants to improve the cul-de-sacs. I don't think we're gonna get away from that unless we can get a variance. I do like the idea of a larger Hammerhead parking area coming off of McCulloch, still giving us access for Metro District property. That's my thoughts.
I think big picture, I visited the site. I was invited by a member of our district to look at it and tour it with him. Big picture, without him offering any sort of, hey, this is what is planned, this is what, anything, I just thought, common sense to me, the thing that made the most sense was what Brian put together here, which is something much more simple at the 3 roads, Broken Bow, whatever the other 2 are, and off of McCulloch, make that the parking lot. And I like the idea of a playground. Overall, I really like what you had to say, and I agree with it. And I 100% agree, especially we're footing the bill for this thing. What's your last line here? We need to be vigilant in representing our district's needs in order to provide the best services possible to our community. It's not necessarily either just about, well, let's just do whatever's cheap. Because this district is going to be around longer than any of us in this room or that are watching online. And there's going to be other kids and families that are going to be able to enjoy that. So personally, and the reason it also made sense to me is who's going to go out of their way to get to that area and randomly go back on Broken Bow and park in that parking lot? That doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, that's my general thoughts.
I appreciate Brian putting this. I appreciate Brian, the director, President Axworthy, putting this together.
Brian's fine.
I think it was well thought out. I agree. It seems to me that governments take the path of least resistance. It's like water. I don't understand why the requirements to improve those cul-de-sacs are more prevalent there than on a cul-de-sac that is existing somewhere else. If we just want to put a fence up or a barrier to keep people from accessing that, why is that any different than that cul-de-sac any different than another cul-de-sac on the other side of Pueblo West that has no improvements? The people drive up and down it all day long, and it's fine the way it is. All we initially asked for was a way to keep traffic from going into that area.
Correct.
Why? And I think we need to push back on silly regulations and silly government rules that all they do is increase costs. They reduce the public's ability to enjoy things because we can't afford to do it. This is a simple fix in my mind, and to block those off, have the access on Enchanted Hills. It doesn't have to drive a quarter of a mile back into that. You can create that parking space right off of McCulloch. And, you know, I've driven up and down McCulloch, and I know I've been told that, well, if it's landlocked, then they can have an access. But there are a lot of turn lanes. There's a lot of roads that Pueblo West uses that go to water facilities that are probably not designated roadways. So I think we need to implore the county to, you know, back off on some of this stuff. Quit being over regulatory on things that, in my opinion, are non-issues. They can improve that cul-de-sac down there with that hammerhead thing, and the rest of the road is going to be just as bad as it's always been. Around cul-de-sac is fine for turning fire trucks around. I think I've been told by Mr. Whitman that he's seen fire trucks turn around in the cul-de-sacs that exist. So I just think we can do better, and we should be able to do it well so that people can enjoy that space. And like Brian said, that, you know, if you put some picnic tables out there and it's a nice hiking area. There's really some nice views out there. There's just, it's a nice place to go. So I think we just make things too complicated, and we need to push back when things are overbearing. So I think we need to make a motion like what he asked for to move forward with this, and I'll make that motion to move forward with this open space 317 tract plan or idea to try to get back that Enchanted Hills access so that we can use it as a parking lot to park there, and try to do things a little bit more common sensibly than just, this is the rule, we got to follow it, and move on. So
Could I help make that motion for what's in?
yeah,
there?
help
Is it
make
what
that
we-
motion.
Because I think the first step, as President Axberg and I identified or talked about, is that can't move forward unless the county is willing to grant a variance to what was stated in this vacation process. So I think it does start with getting that approval from the county commissioners. And Sean, if any of this sounds wrong, let me know, but essentially a motion to pause or postpone any further development of this project and initiate a letter to the Pueblo County Commissioners requesting that variance through the proper channels. And if we have to come back for a letter or anything, we will. To be able to
I
initiate.
would ask that we probably visit with Carmen Howard on what the appropriate process is, because that plat vacation was a land use action.
Okay.
In trying to find the proper mechanism.
I'll advise to pause the project, direct staff to identify and prepare the next steps to be able to request that variance, and then follow back up with appropriate steps based on the approval of that. Does that sound good? That gets us started.
I hate going back to staff. Aren't they the ones that initiated this all?
Well, they just need to tell us
Altogether, I'd like to
how
go
to
directly
write the
to the-
letter or write whatever the variance would be required, because we're not, I don't know if a letter simply to the county commissioners will do the justice, or if we have to submit a new application.
I'd really like an explanation too as to why vacating property lines doesn't vacate the road. I mean,
It will if you vacate the rights of way as part of that vacation process. And just, I understand the concern about how big this property is and how unique it is. It is a more simple regulation than I think we're giving it credit for as far as why that happened, whether it means it's applicable or practical, or to your point, logical for this. Whatever land you were trying to take access to, county, highway, state, us will always require, and it makes the most sense to direct that access to that land on the lowest classification of roadway possible to preserve the safety of traffic on higher trafficked roads. And so what happened is we vacated all those roads internal to it. And you have this big track 317 now that has access from McCulloch, which is arterial. I think arterial, higher classification, and then the cul-de-sacs, which are local residential probably for where they are. So that's what's directing towards it. It's not to say that you can't have variances towards it. There are some in Pueblo West, and some of them were done properly, and some of them were not. And the only other thing I wanted to specify, the reason the cul-de-sac has been, in this case, talked about fencing is because we're stepping up our prevention of people accessing it improperly. So that just came naturally from that. It's not to say that all cul-de-sacs need
and
that.
I'm not against that.
Yeah.
But leaving those cul-de-sacs alone.
So so the only direction we'd be looking for as far as from the county staff is what's the appropriate process to request that variance.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to pause further development of the track 317 property and direct staff to determine next steps to update the plot vacation that would allow McCulloch access to the property. All right,
Sounds good.
Second the motion.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay, guidance number 2, strategic priority number 14, covenant enforcement.
Strategic party.
Is that what I said?
Sounded like.
Oh my gosh. Committee of Architecture Due Process Enforcement, Sean Winters.
Good evening, President Axworthy, members of the board. So I have a presentation this evening. This is basically kind of going over a broad brush on what our due process for covenant enforcement consists of today, to kind of give you an idea of all of the different types and ways that we try to contact property owners who may be in violation of those covenants, and maybe a couple of suggestions on how we might be more effective, and opening up any other suggestions that the board might have to enhance the effectiveness of this process. So, next slide. So a little bit of a background. Originally, our House Bill 24-1267 really created the ability for special districts to be able to impose fines. And so after that was approved, the board did approve Resolution 24-082, which basically established the intent for the district to develop procedural protections regarding the House bill. Resolution 2025-016 actually adopted the procedures for imposition and collection of fines. And then finally, Resolution 2026-004 readopted those procedures and revised the fines held in abeyance to align with Pueblo County Treasurer requirements for collection of fines. Next slide. So the beginning of this process begins with the first step, filing a complaint. So concerned citizens can file a complaint regarding violations to the Declaration of Reservations at the link that you see on the screen. Alternatively, they may also file by filling out a form, a complaint form that we would hold on file, and then we would go ahead and put that in our system. Step 2 is receipt of the complaint. The complaint is processed through our Zendesk platform to create a work ticket where it's assigned to a covenant specialist. The specialist will make comment in the work ticket that they have received that complaint within 1 business day. And comments are continuously made in the work ticket to document the progress, and that information can be accessed by the complainant. Step number 3, site visit. The specialist will then schedule a site visit to verify the complaint within 14 calendar days of receipt. And step 4, if the violation has been verified and the specialist feels comfortable approaching the residence, they may elect to deliver a door hanger requesting that the property owner contact them to discuss the violation. This particular step is above and beyond the due process as outlined by general counsel, but from time to time, we do see that that is effective. Step number 5 is complaint of violation letter. If the property owner has not communicated with the specialist within a minimum of 7 calendar days, a violation letter will be sent out. The letter will include information regarding the violation, along with some pictures and the potential for fines being imposed up to $500 per distinct occurrence. This is sent via FedEx letter and can be tracked by the specialist. Step number 6, notice of violation and hearing letter. If the property owner has not responded or resolved the issue within a minimum 14 calendar days according to the receipt of the violation letter, the specialist will send out a notice of violation and hearing letter for the Committee of Architecture. The letter will give the date of the hearing, restate the violation, and the fine potential. This letter is also sent out via FedEx letter. Step 7, COA hearing. A hearing by the committee will allow input from all parties to present their points of view. The committee shall determine whether conditions presented constitute a violation or not, and if so, the committee may impose fines up to $500 per distinct violation. The committee may also authorize a strong letter if issues are not resolved. Step number 8, a letter of imposed fines. So following the hearing, a letter documenting the COA findings will be sent to the property owner via FedEx letter, and that letter will state the amount of the overall fine and those that may be held in abeyance for the next 30 days. If the issues are not resolved within those 30 calendar days, the amount of the fine held in abeyance will be waived. If not, well, excuse me, I may have misspoke there. If the issues are resolved within 30 calendar days, the amount held in abeyance will be waived. And if not, the overall fine will be imposed. So if we don't see any progress within that 30 days of the COA meeting, a request will be made to general counsel to prepare a strong letter. The letter will advise the potential consequences of failure to comply and provide directive to abate by a certain date. Which leads us to step 10, litigation. Once a date certain has passed, the committee can recommend referral to the board of directors for consideration of litigation. The board may discuss litigation issues in executive sessions for the purposes of receiving legal advice from general counsel. A decision to move forward with litigation may be determined in a board of directors public meeting via resolution. So that is currently all the effort that goes into trying to get somebody to resolve an issue. It's quite extensive. It does take a period of time. And so I did come up with a couple different options that might make due process more effective. Currently, due process, the committee may impose fines up to $500 per distinct violations. Refining the process to allow the committee to impose fines per violation may provide more encouragement to resolve the issue before general counsel intervention. For example, 2 unapplied Connex boxes would then count as 2 violations in lieu of just 1. Another option is refine the issuance of strong letters sent by general counsel utilizing process servers. In this situation, process servers in our area cost somewhere between $75 and $125. Yes, sir. Oh, I thought you had your
Not
finger up
yet.
like,
You're not
okay,
done?
okay. So those were a couple of things that I thought that we could consider to be more effective in minimizing the amount of cases or situations that do come to the board for consideration. And I'd open it up for any questions, comments, or suggestions.
Couple questions. I want you to educate me real quick. How much public participation from the violators do you get to COA meetings?
Not a lot. We do get a lot of them that do get resolved before you get the hearing. We do get some that get resolved prior to the 30 days after the hearing. More recently, you guys, we do have on the agenda tonight 4 that made it all the way to a public meeting. In those particular situations, I don't think we got any communication back from those individuals.
And what about the plaintiffs filing complaints, their participation?
Typically, it is contained within comments within the Zendesk ticket. If they're seeing something new or the issue still exists, they wonder why it takes so long to get anything done. We get a lot of those kind of comments. We typically don't get a lot of people coming to the public meeting, to the COA meeting. Occasionally, we do have some people who drop by the office, but
So when that ticket's generated,
Mhm.
you're basically opening a case file, right?
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
so my question to you is should we invite them to the next COA meeting?
Mhm.
Okay, to get them to interact more.
Is
And
this
that's also the violators and the plaintiffs, because you can have people that they just don't get along with anybody.
Mhm.
And they got nothing better to do than nitpick someone else's property,
Mhm.
right? But then if you invite them to the COA meeting to express themselves, right? Trying to get them to participate in their complaint. I'm just curious if inviting them with the ticket, because we've gotten to that stage.
Yep. So we could invite the complainant to attend the hearing. Certainly, we could do that. I
Well, I'm
think.
not necessarily talking about the hearing, I'm talking about before it gets to that stage.
Well, there's not a lot of opportunity before that because we only have 14 days after the violation letter, and COA meetings are like these. They're on the 2nd and
Mhm.
4th Thursdays. So if COA letter goes out, the violation, the next meeting it is probably the hearing. So the 14 days kind of coincides with that. There would not be another meeting in between the initial violation letter and the hearing.
Percentage wise, how many non-responsive violators do you encounter in a month?
Yeah, I don't have good figures for that.
Like
Director
3
Roberts.
out of 10 maybe, or,
I could say 3 out of 10, but it's probably not right.
uh-huh.
I
I'm just curious how many just blow you off? You know, that's,
Well, I think it kind of depends. And at what point do they blow us off? And when do they finally want to become compliant? I really don't have good figures for that. All I know is by the time I could tell you how many hearings that we have. I can tell you how many that we bring to the committee. But our Zendesk program really isn't good at sorting data and creating reports. But that's something that I could collect some data on. How many hearings do we have? How many times do we come to the board?
okay. Well, I
So-
appreciate you telling me all that.
I just
mean,
have one.
Your due process is obviously well-defined and everything, so.
I just have one comment before we move forward, and a question actually. And it's based off of, yeah, I saw that too. We have a friendly gnat in the area.
I think I had the same one just a minute ago. It was really distracting.
So during our last exec meeting, a question popped up, is there any way to offer cost-effective recommendations to the property owner to resolve the situation amicably before it gets to a heightened level? And my question for you would be, what point in this process would be the best time to make those suggestions and get it on file that we've done everything we can on our end to resolve the situation
I'm not sure I understand.
prior to going to court and
Correct.
so forth?
I mean, Carl,
For instance,
Okay.
if there's a bunch of junk on a property, could we, example would be, could we say, hey, there's this junk removal service. Here's the phone number.
right, if
Let's
we
see.
could get in contact with the property owner, but most of the time, the ones that are problematic are the property owners or violators that do not want to be contacted, and they avoid it.
I know one
That's what I was
one
curious about.
popped up like, hey, this building is in the wrong place. You could go apply for a variance or some
Oh, yeah,
some
that-
sort.
We always try to provide some guidance.
We do.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we try to avoid
When does
even
that?
going to the hearing. We try to communicate as best we can. If they say, you know what, I would like to solve this problem. Unfortunately, I may not get to it for another 45 days or so. We will give them additional time to resolve it.
Right.
And sometimes it's a cost issue. I can't afford to hire or to obtain a dumpster.
Right.
And if you give me another 30 days, I could maybe make some headway there. Our covenant specialists are always working to resolve the issue before it goes to hearing. And if they're willing to communicate even after they go to hearing, to try to get it before strong letter. And then at that point, most of them have not been communicating with us from the very beginning and likely had no intention of doing so at any point. So,
Could we include that communication or that process within your outline or timeline? Just so it's documented that we've done everything we can.
yeah, typically in our Zendesk tickets, we do document what we've done, when we did it, any communications that we've had, because we want due process for me benefits both parties, both the person who complained about it, who expect that through due process it's going to be handled, and due process for the potential alleged violator to make sure that we're treating them fairly. We want to make sure that everybody is informed and communicated with to the best of our ability. So yeah, we do try to document everything in that Zendesk ticket.
And that's all part of the case file.
I think the litigation is gonna tell the tale of whether or not it's effective. To some degree. I'm hesitant to do, $500 per distinct violation. I don't think that it's really our goal to become the most oppressive district in the state. So I would try other things before I would do that, but, and this isn't a popular option either, but the litigation, once it's filed, is public record, right?
Always.
Be posted on the
Almost
district
always.
website, the violators are in court, right?
Just like taxes not paid. for
That
property.
may be more of a detriment to everybody else than anything we can do.
Deterrent. Deterrent.
The
You're saying,
deterrent,
yeah.
that's the thing.
There certainly is a certain level of a program that comes with being sued
Mhm.
and fined. And we have not ordinarily posted all of the pleadings to the district website. They are available through the state judicial if people want to see them. But
Nobody knows of it. Nobody knows of it.
we have not done that yet. We certainly could put together a notice of litigation filed and just have that linked to the the district's website.
I think,
Might be a very good deterrent.
So you're
I
not
think
establishing.
I think that's a good idea.
Like, what would we call it?
I think that's a good idea. I go back to the public, survey that was done, top two complaints, roads and covenant enforcement. So I'd be in favor of what you have here as a suggestion. I'm in favor of Bill's suggestion. And I have a question I think I know the answer to, but is there any way to go to the companies that are, for example, dropping Connex boxes in our district? And is there any grounds for anything for us to do in those scenarios? Because they have to know that they're dropping Connex boxes in Pueblo West and that we have covenants or
This is the company that's selling them? or-
Yes.
Right, okay.
yes, they're getting them from somewhere.
Yeah.
So the question is there anything that we can do
I think for the most
to
part,
cut that off at the head, so
they're
to
just
speak?
dropping off the Connex as a residence. They're selling the Connex and delivering it.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily, they don't necessarily have a contractor involved in most of those cases. Is what I'm guessing.
Okay.
We could maybe do a little research on it. I think that's probably the right answer as far as what's capable and where it's coming from. When we talked with Sheriff Lucero about the trails and how people are using class 3 e-bikes, which are the ones that are not authorized, or motorcycles or dirt bikes on it, kind of came up with the question of attacking it from all angles, and could you go to the distributor, the seller, that
Yeah.
aspect of it. So if we could identify there's a commonality between where they're coming from or who's providing them, we might be able to at least send a letter and let them know. That might be the extent of what we'd be able to do. But if it's not a common ground, if it's
I
multiple
mean,
different companies.
even if we could do that, I mean, I know of two on the interstate,
Gotcha.
one
And
way or the other, north and south of Pueblo.
We found and this is not applicable to that, but the e-bikes and the motorcycles, a lot of them are essentially ordering it online. So it's became a huge pool of who potentially to visit with. But at the same time, if there were local people selling it, that aspect could be something where we could just at least inform them of, hey, if you're shipping out to Pueblo West area, understand you're shipping to a place that might be getting a return order here shortly. So we can at least investigate it.
So are the Connexes, part of the COA approval
Yeah.
before they buy them?
Well, when they buy them is up to them, but they should have a application for an accessory structure before it's installed.
And is there, do we have anybody designated to go out there to verify where they're gonna drop that?
After they get approved with COA, we typically go out like 6 months after to see if they installed it and installed it in the proper location that was approved. And then if it hasn't, we probably go out at the end of 12 months. But it seems to me like accessory structures have a 6-month deadline to get those done. So I'm thinking it's more like the 6-month period
What financial impact to the applicant is there?
in terms
For
of.
the application,
Putting the application in?
what, $25?
No,
It's not $25.
it's $150, isn't it?
Oh, really? It's
I
gone way up.
don't even
Oh,
want
yeah.
to quote on that, but it's significant. It's hundreds of dollars.
You gotta pay 25 cents.
It's less than $500 in fine. So,
And how many of these do you find that are like over the lot lines or on the easements or?
you know, the only two that we have brought to you guys is more recently these two Connexes associated with that one property, but that's the only ones that I don't think that we have resolution with. A lot of times we'll tell them, hey, you need to either apply or get rid of it. A lot of times they say, oh, well, I'm storing this for my brother-in-law and he's moving and he's got his stuff stored in here, and at the end of the month, he's gonna pull it out and then we'll get rid of it,
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
I don't wanna go down the Connex rabbit hole.
Well, I
like
was just
probably-
seeing how much of a problem it is, so.
So far, we've only brought that one property to
Right.
you guys.
Depends on who turns it in. Somebody's got to turn it in, otherwise they can't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay, are we all good on that? Moving on?
Yeah.
Okay,
Information at this point, right? information at this point, right?
Or did you want any other guidance? Are you looking for any other guidance?
You guys gave us a couple of suggestions here. Let me see what we can do.
Any motion for the suggestions? No? Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next up is a
Thanks, Sean.
decision for the resolution recognizing the 50th anniversary of the Pueblo West Fire Department. And I have a little blurb, unless you want to go first, Mr. Caserta.
No, this is, on all you.
So he said, I'm just here.
I'm just here.
All right. So, most people know fire, parks and rec, and water, wastewater management are the key services within our metropolitan district. It's important to recognize each of their services and advancements over time. Our fire department began as a formation of volunteers willing to service their local community as part of the Metropolitan Service Agreement. The department has since grown to 3 fire stations with new machinery and trucks designed to service every aspect of our community's needs, from a large-scale commercial protection to residential and prairie wildfire management. We received several compliments on our fire and emergency response times, demeanor of the staff, and empathetic service to our community. That level of service embodies the emotional resonance needed in today's governmental practices. So it is my pleasure to introduce a motion to recognize the formation of the Pueblo West Volunteer Fire Department, established on June 2nd, 1976, as a tribute to this community's accomplishments. Therefore, be it resolved, the Pueblo West Metropolitan Board of Directors recognizes the original formation of said fire department to serve our community on June 2nd, 1976, with today celebrating the 50 years of service and providing emergency response for fire protection and emergency medical services to the citizens of Pueblo West. My only comment is I look forward to doing the same for our Parks and Rec water departments. So, the motion on the table to recognize the formation of the Pueblo West Fire Department, established on June 2nd, 1976. Can I get a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes.
President Axworthy, if it's up to the board, but I would like to show the public and the board a video that High Speed Media teamed up with our fire department and with Brandy, our community relations manager, to prepare a video to kind of highlight their accomplishments and what Pueblo West Fire Department really means to our community. So with your approval, we'll go ahead and play that.
Please do.
You reach even deeper. For 50 years, the Pueblo West Fire Department has stood with our residents under one simple idea: people helping people. But our story and our responsibility reach even deeper. The Pueblo West Metropolitan District has been responsible for 4 essential community services: fire protection, water and wastewater, parks and recreation, and covenant enforcement. And from the very beginning, fire protection has been a core pillar of that promise. Originally organized in 1976 as a small volunteer department, the Pueblo West Fire Department has grown into a highly trained career fire service serving nearly 50 square miles and over 30,000 residents. Our mission guides every call and every decision. It's a mission built on preparedness, compassion, and professionalism, and is delivered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Under the 1972 service plan, the district is required to provide a full fire protection system for Pueblo West. Those foundational requirements include construction and operation of fire stations, a modern fleet of fire apparatus, a reliable communications and dispatch system, and a fully staffed professional fire team ready around the clock. These requirements ensure the community is protected both today and as Pueblo West continues to grow. Beyond the service plan, federal and state regulations shape the services we provide every day. The Pueblo West Fire Department meets and often exceeds these standards through fire code enforcement and building inspections, rigorous maintenance of equipment to NFPA standards, emergency preparedness planning, public safety education and outreach, EMS oversight and medical compliance. These responsibilities help keep our homes, businesses, and schools safe and resilient. But we don't stop at the required services. Today, our department provides an expanded range of community-focused programs: CPR, AED, and first aid training, hazardous materials response, special rescue services, public education for children, seniors, and families, business inspections, and fire safety support. These programs strengthen safety and build knowledge throughout Pueblo West. At the heart of our department is a dedicated, highly trained team. Every Pueblo West firefighter is certified at minimum as an emergency medical technician, and many serve as certified paramedics. Across our 3 staff stations, we maintain a minimum daily staffing of 10 under the control of an assistant fire chief. Each station has a minimum of 1 captain, 1 firefighter paramedic, 1 firefighter EMT. This staffing ensures that every response crew includes advanced life support capabilities. In total, the department includes command staff, safety officers, 9 fire captains, 36 full-time firefighters, and a support team dedicated to keeping operations running smoothly. Our service area spans approximately 50 square miles, including mutual aid support for Lake Pueblo State Park and parts of the I-25 corridor. We also assist surrounding agencies when needed. To serve this region, the department operates a modern fleet. That fleet includes 5 engines, 2 ladder trucks, 1 rescue squad, 1 utility truck with a UTV, 4 brush trucks, 5 command vehicles. This fleet allows us to respond to structure fires, wildland fires, EMS calls, technical rescues, hazardous materials incidents, and more. The Fire Prevention Division plays a vital role in keeping Pueblo West safe before emergencies happen. Their work includes business inspections, fire hazard complaint investigations, plan reviews for new or remodeled commercial buildings, public safety education and presentations. Their efforts reduce risk, protect property, and save lives long before the first engine rolls. Community engagement is part of who we are. Station tours, school visits, and public demonstrations build understanding, trust, and a culture of safety. While tours depend on emergency calls and training schedules, our doors are always open whenever possible, because building relationships matter. Our firefighters are highly trained professionals who understand the risks they face each day. Their mission is simple: protect our community with compassion, courage, and professionalism. We are honored to serve, and we are committed to being community focused and professionally delivered. The Pueblo West Fire Department is more than an emergency response agency. We are a partner, a protector, and a pillar of the Pueblo West Metropolitan District's commitment to its residents. From the foundation laid in 1972 to the advanced services we provide today, our focus remains the same: protect lives, protect property, serve with pride every minute, every call, every day.
Well, see, I really didn't have to say anything. Round of applause, yeah. Thank you to the fire department. Thank you, sir. Jump the gun, jump the gun. All right, next up, public comments. Is Joe still here?
Joe?
Yeah, he's still here.
Joe, would you mind finishing your thought?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you, sir.
when we took a pause from my thoughts was when I reminded us how we got to 63 Spalding to begin with. It wasn't by choice, it was just a stopgap effect. Now, I've been told more than once, a person shouldn't complain unless they have an alternative suggestion on how to solve the complaint. Now, again, I'll state my complaint. Wasting our tax money to build something next to 63 Spalding is just not the best approach to take. It was a mistake to be down there in the first place, but different boards have come up with different priorities. What I would recommend doing, let me get to the, instead of wasting our $250,000 having an architect design something in the wrong place at the wrong time, the first priority the district should have is to make permanent the fire sales tax. That's the most important thing. If that isn't done, your budget's going to collapse when we have to go back and reallocate funds out of the general fund to pay what's the sales tax is being paid into. The second priority should be to build the downsized year-round swimming pool that's been proposed. The third thing I would suggest is to allocate $2 million a year to be used to build an administration building across the street from Fire Station 1, where the original idea of building an administration building would be. We traded land to get that land, and that's the place it should be, not on Spalding. The fourth thing would be to build a bunkhouse for the fire station. That's something that apparently is to meet regulations of some sort. And the fifth thing would be to pave 67 Spalding to provide parking for 63 Spalding. We're going to be there a while. There's no doubt about it. Even if you could somehow come up with justification for building this addition, which you can't attach to it a separate building for a boardroom and several new offices and extra offices and whatever's being conceived for that, pave the parking lot and call it good until we get all these other things done, and then build your administration building over across from Fire Station number 1. Just quit spending good money after bad on 63 Spalding. It just doesn't work. If it was inadequate, there are ways you can deal with, no matter what you do, you're always going to find somebody needs another office or something. If you have extra offices, you'll find ways to fill them. So just quit doing that and get the priorities in line. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. Any other public comments?
We have not had any others submitted. Thank you.
Board member and district manager closing comments. Who'd like to go first?
I don't have any,
None from Greg. Chris?
I don't have any.
I just wanted to mention something that I was made aware of today. I don't normally delve into these areas, but there was a post made about the splash park, and I drove by the splash park, and it looked like they were working on remedying some of the water cannon problems that we've had. So I just want the public to know that we're trying to keep that thing up and running. There are parts that are getting harder to find. So we're working on it. It's not just sitting there falling apart, and we'll try to keep it going.
I actually had that tonight as well to follow up on,
Oh.
if I can piggyback, but I didn't want to interrupt if you have other.
Go ahead.
Is it okay?
Yep.
So did talk with Carol Cosby, our Parks and Rec Director. We did also see those comments. Just for awareness, the cannons, where you see the tape and everything, those had to be special ordered out of Canada to be able to replace, just due to the age and who provides it. And apparently they were ordered, I believe, back in January to be replaced. They got caught in customs twice. It has been a process to get them there. Apparently they arrived today and got one of them, I think, up and running. It opened Wednesday, so they're hoping that they have both of them fixed for that and ready for Wednesday's opening for that. So recognizing that was a challenge in logistics, our Parks and Rec staff did try to make sure that happened ahead of time. It just came down to customs. The second part, the paint aspect of it, that was a pretty durable, higher end paint, non-slip. It was intended to last. It essentially did not. I don't know how many years ago it got its first coating, if it was 1 or 2.
It was recorded like 3 years ago, though.
3 years ago?
It didn't last.
It does not appear to last until you try to pressure wash it off. Now, what's left there is not wanting to come off. So they recognized they did try to find something that would be suitable for it. That application is not one that's probably cost prohibitive to try and keep doing that every year, year after year. So they're looking for other solutions, and they haven't been able to get. They worked on it even today, and I think last week, to try and get the remainder of it off to make it at least even or uniform throughout it. So they acknowledged it. We do appreciate feedback for it. And I appreciate Vice President Vickers going out there and sharing some of the challenges or what we try to do to make sure that we provide those good community amenities. So I appreciate that.
You know what? The kids still like it, whether there's paint on the ground or not. They're still in there getting wet. So
Joe liked it a few years ago as well when he
I was gonna say,
lured
Brian
me
could
in.
open up a can of worms with his fire truck water spray event. That's our new water park right there.
anyway, thank you, Christian.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. I just have one comment pertains to Joe's comments about the admin building. So we pursued the direction that we pursued because it would save taxpayer dollars. So the purchase of 63 Spalding and the addition next to it is going to be less than $4 million versus the roughly $6 to $8 million that was projected for the property to be built on Civic Center Park area, the land that we traded in order to originally build the building. So that's why we went in the direction that we went in, to save taxpayer dollars and utilize fund balances for other means. I wholeheartedly agree with you on the fire sales tax permanency as a priority. And then moving on down the line, I think we're on the same page. Other than, we're looking to get the Fire Station 1 extension taken care of relatively soon as well. That's it.
We have that on the next agenda.
I think we provided an update at the
Design.
last one. They are still within design, and I don't think we have anything yet to report on, but we can follow up.
Want me to?
I'll read it if you- All right. We're deciding who reads the execution.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn our regular meeting and convene a executive session with a 5-minute recess between sessions. So the executive session is 24-6-4024E, Colorado Revised Statute determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. This has to do with specifically the sale of district property to Westover Homes. Secondly, we'll be convening 24-6-4024E, Colorado Revised Statute determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. 24-6-4024B, Colorado Revised Statutes, conferences with an attorney for the public entity for the questions for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions, and this is specifically relating to discussion related to the 2023 roads IGA with Pueblo County. And thirdly, 24-6-4024B, Colorado Revised Statutes, conferences with an attorney for the public entity for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions, specifically relating to relative responsibilities of the board as the declarant and the Committee of Architecture as provided in the Declarations of Reservations for Pueblo West Metropolitan District.
I will second. Thank you, Bill, for reading all that. Okay, so we have a motion to recess the regular meeting and move into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are now in executive session with a 5-minute recess.
Mr. President?